Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon for those of you in other time zones. My name is Patrick Ciccarelli, and I'm here to present on AI strategy and planning. We've got a lot of slides today, a lot of information. For those of you who this may be your first session, we've been providing webinars for a long time now, I think 2.5 years. I like to refer to them as learning sessions. And uh, Thank you for that notification. Someone just notified that there is an echo going on, so give me just a second, double check that. Okay, we'll try that again and see. Have anyone on my team that's attending, if you could send me a message if you're hearing echoes on your side, that would be greatly appreciated. For those of you who are hearing an echo, if you're on Bluetooth, you might want to try and turn off Bluetooth or switch off Bluetooth and see if that audio is still causing an issue. So I've been doing these learning sessions for a long time. We do view them as learning sessions, like meaning our intent here when I present this information, we're not selling anything. We're not trying to promote a certain agenda. We have been doing work in various communities in the social good or social impact space for 30 years now. And we really want to get the right information, knowledge, experiences, even tips, things that we've seen work or not work and failures, and share that with kind of our peers out there, and to help all of you in tackling various technology issues. Almost always on the issue of technology, but sometimes it's technology and management practices or people operations and other areas. Today is a really interesting topic for me. Again, I've been working in AI and talking about it as a non-software developer for the better part of 3 years now. And I've been involved in about five AI software projects right now, significant AI software projects, and cut my teeth on a lot of different things, not just on the tools like ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot you've seen out there. And the reason what brought this topic around, which is not really about the technology itself, it is about planning for and setting up that technology and how we approach it within our organizations and with our coworkers or with our staff. And that happened because we were getting a lot of requests, and this is inside our customer base as well as outside of our customer base, from peers, other organizations, other professionals out there. A lot of questions about how to tackle this new technology within their organizations. And the place that I saw most frequently that people were doing was they were starting with wanting to establish an AI policy. And that's really good. I think it's great. It's a something that people can kind of get around and understand without a lot of complexity. They can put that AI policy together, and we'll talk about that in a little bit here later on about how we might be able to help with that. But those who moved past the AI policy and then started doing, let's say, where we were working with them on training, technology training, and working with their staff on how to approach using AI, this quickly snowballed into more of the strategy and planning, meaning what are we going to do for our organization holistically? And how do we approach this, not just the policy side? And where do we embrace it? Where do we slow it down? How do we manage security and so forth? So this led me to do a bunch of research in the past several months leading up to this first learning session with everyone, and to bring that information forward of what I'm learning. Because we have clients today and other professionals where I'm consulting with them as we speak and giving them guidance on how to approach this. And my hope today is that you come away with some of those tips, some of those insights, and possibly even an approach of how you might take this information back within your organization. So we've got about 20 slides today. We've got another 55 minutes. We'll probably wrap up 10 minutes before the hour, maybe even a little bit earlier. But again, given the topic line, I tend to focus more about experiences as we go through. So hopefully we can impart some good information to you all today. So why does it matter now? You're seeing this in your own organizations, even if you haven't done this yourself, but many of you may have done this, which is we have experimentation going on. And what do I mean by experimentation? We're talking about people getting access to the free version of ChatGPT, or if it's Google Gemini or Anthropic or Microsoft Copilot. But I'd be honest, most of the time it's ChatGPT. They're using the free version. They're like, hey, what can this do? Or my friend told me this. And they're just amazed at what the current releases of these products are able to do for them. And I think there is a level of amazement that still, even for me, having worked in this area and you've worked with this technology for some time, it's still quite amazing in terms of what the technology can do. And I think in the 30 years of my career, going back to like pre-internet to the internet within an organization, I think this is the one place where we see a really transformational technology that is quite practical. It's not about, oh, it'll promise something. It actually can apply. And we'll talk a little bit about where it applies and some of the kind of return on investment or return on asset type of value that the technology can bring into it. And so you've got that experimentation going on, and I'm a big believer in very small controlled experimentation. I think it's really, really powerful. It's powerful for a lot of reasons, like staff retention, for engaging employees that might not feel that engaged in the organization or with the technology, and also about leveling out the organization. It's creating an ecosystem for people to experiment, to explore, and without using the word, which I'm not a big fan of using the word innovation. Like innovation is just too generic to really talk about, and people don't know what innovation means when it comes to actually, day to day what I'm going to do. So that's one area it happens. When we talk about stakeholders, I'm hearing and being asked questions that either come from board members, they're coming from customers, they're coming from key executives. So there's a lot of questions, and it's a range of questions. Certainly, a lot of it is around data governance, meaning what if they're using this? What if they take some information and unknowingly put in a free version of one of these tools all of our employee information or all of our financial data, or if you're in healthcare organization or private healthcare information. So there's a lot of concerns about that. And then the other part is, as people have learned and explored and seen maybe firsthand what they can do, they think about how their organizations are constrained. And we've worked in the nonprofit, with nonprofit organizations for a very long time, since our inception. And in that time period, I've come to find that this is one technology that is probably the most meaningful technology inside of a nonprofit that I've ever seen, in terms of that you can really take this technology and create value for the nonprofit, who is already resource constrained, almost always is, and improve a number of areas, improve productivity, improve quality, help hold back costs, not necessarily remove costs in some cases, but hold back and prevent costs from continuing to scale up. And that's a pretty big deal. It'd be a big deal in any organization, but that something like this is so accessible, it is a really important reason why I thought doing this presentation today, going through these topics, was really valuable. Like, this is a really important opportunity for any organizations, but particularly nonprofits. So let's keep looking through this. So I'll just cover this really on what is AI. I'm not going to read off the bullet points. Take a look at this last marker here, this purple area down at the bottom. And in that purple area, I think this is the most important thing to understand. So if you're a non-technology person within your organization, like you're interested in this topic, but you don't really consider yourself a technical person, the most important thing here is understand that AI does not replace human judgment, and human reasoning. It is incredibly sophisticated, but the type of AI that we're talking about today, and that most of us realistically have access to and will continue to have access to in the next 1 to 2 years, it cannot match human reasoning at this point. And I think that's a good thing to mention inside your organization when you start talking about strategy, because you really want to make people understand that it's not realistic at this point that you're going to say AI is going to replace someone's job. Like, it just isn't. Like, there's a lot of hype out there. I mean, a lot of hype. There's a lot about future ideas that are in their kind of prototyping pilot stage in the tech startup world. but that's not there, and that we don't need to make that part of our strategies. And that's something I usually, when we get into some of our frameworks and tip in our how do we do strategic planning, it's one of the things that you have to adopt, and I'll talk about that a little bit today. But AI is really about this, like where can we use it to enhance what we do, to make it better, to make it go turn around faster. AI is good at those things, and we'll talk about next here about some of those limitations, like, and those limitations of what AI cannot do. So this idea of comprehension, like AI does not have comprehension. Like it has the appearance of comprehension because it's amazing what breadth of knowledge and what inference it can provide with the size and power that artificial intelligence has, but it doesn't actually have comprehension. It just has the appearance of comprehension, that it understands at a certain level. It's able to put together what appears to be understanding, but it really is just identifying patterns that we have in language and in content that it can then surface to us to give it the appearance that it has comprehension. So it doesn't have that. And this brings us to the second thing that occurs, that one of the problems that occurs inside of this technology is that the AI is so good at taking information that exists and reformulating it into a response to your in some type of action, that it can do what's called hallucinations. So a very practical example in our that we've had firsthand in our organizations. So we've been building AI tools, if you will, automation, support, things to assist with our support, how we provide our service, and so forth. And one of the things we saw early on as we were building a very focused tool in using AI was that we were dealing with support service tickets, and we were testing it and going back and forth, and we are like, this looks great, it's working. And then we went back and looked at the responses, and just to double check our work, we took the ticket numbers that the AI was giving us, saying, oh, here's a ticket number for this, and here's a, and then we went in our actual database. The ticket numbers didn't exist. The AI fabricated the topics, the ticket numbers, the issues, and then presented it as if they were real issues, that we had tickets that required some kind of action. It was all fabricated. So like hallucinations are a real thing. And so that's something that you can't guarantee. You have to be aware that when you take these tools, you usually can't take something and just buy it and be like, it'll be perfect for our organization. Again, that's not to say that you can't use it. It's that you have to have intention of how you're going about it. And this last part is a really important one. And this comes into things that we're not going to talk today around AI ethics, is human guardrails. And we're going to look at this in kind of different visions for AI within your organization. We're going to talk about that in a little bit here, but it does require human guardrails. If you talk to like our CTO, Hussein, if you talk to someone who really understands this technology and they're realistic about what it can do and the quality of service it can provide, you actually see that this information here is actually something that still requires a human to stand in between to figure out. So AI has limitations, right? And if you get someone saying, no, it's good enough for us, it'll be fine, that should create some pause for your organization to say, let's really be thoughtful about how we approach this. Okay, if there is one slide that I would tell you I think is the most important slide of today's presentation, and there's a lot of good stuff in here, it is this one slide. This is this idea of 4 capabilities, and this is part of my own research and working it in the AI vision of where does it fit. And I'm trying to categorize it and bucket it into things that any of us could take back to our organizations and think about. So the first one, and I talk about this, is AI as a personal assistant or assistive AI. This is a term I've been using for a while. I like it a lot. It's the idea that you've got an employee or a staff member, it's yourself, and you say to yourself, how could I enhance my capabilities or help get support on the areas where I have weakness in my skills or in my turnaround time, my speed? How can I use AI to assist me in a really meaningful way? And that's assistive AI. Now you might say, okay, so what does that mean in what we're talking about today, Patrick? Well, what it means is you might, as an organization, say where we would really like AI to work with us right now is I think we're going to adopt the assistive AI approach, that we're going to think about AI as just another tool that attaches to an employee. Like, and that employee may decide that it's appropriate to use this tool to help me review something I wrote, right? Or to help give me some ideas of how I would approach a certain topic, or just to ask it for knowledge. Like, can you give me this knowledge really quickly and summarize in a way that's easier for me to understand? And when you use, for example, when you use AI to ask about topics like I'm covering today, you can end up getting a lot of technical information, and you just an enormous amount of information that's very difficult to digest unless you already have a significant background in it. But your organization might say that personal assistant idea, personal assistant vision for AI, I really like that resonates with the culture of our organization. That's a capability that I feel that we can embrace and think about and build our strategic plan around that vision. So when we deal with strategic plans or AI strategy, it's important to go into it with about which capabilities do you want to embrace. So the next one is inflow AI. Now, inflow AI is where we're getting taking kind of the best of AI, but putting it into the specific needs of your business process alongside of an employee. That's really important here. You're actually getting the AI involved in the business process, and those human guardrails, that employee is sitting there and saying, okay, like, here's how we do our work. How do we make AI work for us? Like, how do we make this business process better? And so that's inflow AI. That's something I think that even we and myself, like, we aspire to inflow AI with inside of our organization, because it is the most uh, measurable value to the company, to the organization, to our downstream customers if we can attach to inflow AI. So my vision for our organization is much more oriented towards inflow AI across the board. And we dabble in some portion of all of these, but inflow AI is a big part of that. The next one is automated AI. So I just want to explain that automated AI is something that I'm using here, and it has a different name, which we'll cover on later. But automated AI, think of it as taking a business process and letting the AI do the entire process on its own without having to have an employee alongside of them. So this is probably, of all of these, this is the most cutting edge of the vision AI component. This is where you will you might read articles, if you get these news feeds, you'll say company deploys an entire business with no employees. And what they're talking about there is, and using AI, what they're talking about there is they're using automated AI. And so that is not ready for prime time. Now it's doing there's an enormous amount of investment in this. It is going to occur. It could be the right thing for your organizations or in certain parts, but I would caution you, like, that is absolutely an AI vision. It can be part of your strategy. That technology within AI is not quite at the point where it's accessible to most of us, right? Or reliable enough to most of us. It's quite expensive to do, is what it comes down to. The last one is something I think we should all aspire to, which is insight AI. This is where the AI is being leveraged to help us make the best decisions, to analyze our data, to give us prediction. And there's some caveats to how that works. But again, that vision inside AI is like, well, we don't want personal assistants. We don't want to mess with our process. Everything works great. But making some, seeing some better insights, making better decisions, not spending a month trying to analyze data and do a board report, that could be interesting for us. So think of it as that way. This is a very, very sophisticated, futuristic way of how one would look at their AI with the data within their organization and be able to get insights, make better decisions, make predictions on it. So again, your vision for AI is something I would advise you to embrace. Otherwise, if you get into the strategy without clarity around your vision, you may find that that strategy begins to either be way too narrow, or you have a lot of people giving ideas from all over the place. I would not recommend in this slide where you try to take on multiple AI visions. And you can start with one and move in your strategy over time to another as you begin to explore and grow, grow some muscle memory around this and grow some adapt capability around it. But you wouldn't want to tackle all four of these time. It's too complex. It's too costly. It doesn't make sense. It actually doesn't work correctly if you try to take that on. So very, very important approach here. Very important slide for you to think about. So let's go to that assistive AI. This is an important part, and I'm not going to talk about the bullets because I have talked about assistive AI. You can read through that, but look at this highlight here. Staff maintains full control, and AI accelerates tasks. This is a really easy way to think about assistive AI. I tell the AI what I need because I have a task to do, and the AI helps me get that task done. It is not at the business process level. I manage the business process. I'm involved in the business process. I know understanding all the nuances and tasks. I'm just telling it to help me at one of the tasks that I know. That is where assistive AI falls into place. So that's one level. The next level, we talked about inflow AI. This is a critical requirement. This is a structured approach on process. And this other part, which is clean data. Really, really important inflow AI. We're going to see that come up later. But in inflow AI, if you don't know your own business process, it's almost impossible to apply AI into a process on an inflow basis. You would have to troubleshoot and understand your process, figure out and come to an agreement, and then say, okay, now that we understand and we agree on this business process, now how do we enhance that business process? Now, if you don't feel like you've got a good business process, could you use assistive AI to help you evaluate that and think about ways that you could make the process better or establish process? Absolutely. I think when I'm training, when I'm working with and coaching staff on my team, I like to tell them to embrace AI because if they're like, I'm not sure where to begin, this is what you want? There's all these feelings of potential failure if you say the wrong thing or you don't have a really good insight. I'm totally on the bandwagon of, hey, go into AI and learn. It'd just be like you going to an MBA course on this topic, but you don't have time for that, neither do I. So let's use the AI to provide some suggestions just to share some knowledge. We just need to know how to ask the assistive AI how to do that. So that's your level, again, your level 2 inflow. Your automated, and the word here, you're going to hear this word out there in the ether, agentic AI. So automated AI, the actual term that's used there is called agentic. I don't like the word agentic. I don't think for us mere mortals, it doesn't mean a lot. And it's actually being misinterpreted. Like people are calling things agentic when they're actually not agentic. So this is a lot of smoke and mirrors as the marketplace begins to figure itself out. But it's about automated AI. And this is where the AI can just do the task all its own. And you'll see this last piece, which is when you do automated AI, you're going to be investing an enormous amount of time and energy and resources on governance because you're letting it make decisions, right? That's what's so amazing about the complexity of this next generation of the technology, but you still have to have really strict control over governance. And even at this level of working with AI on a software development basis, I can tell you we're spending a lot of time creating controls to limit where the AI does and does not play a part in the AI. Some people think like, oh, we just kind of unleash the AI, tell it what we want, and then it just goes. Not unless you want a big mess. And you might not see it at first and then realize it creates a big mess. And we've by all means, we have seen these messes with certain organizations or companies or products where they promise something and you go to use it and everyone goes, oh, that doesn't really help us. It doesn't really work well. And that's because it hasn't really been customized and tweaked to be really effective in what that vendor had promised. So agentic AI is the technical term. I refer to it as automated AI. So interesting point. Do not get confused automated AI with robotic process automation, RPA. Totally different thing. We're not talking about that right now. So agentic AI or automated AI, different technology. So the last one here is what I was talking about with the insights in AI. This has huge strategic value. That's the really big takeaway. Like We move away from static numbers and dashboards like lagging indicators for those of you who use metrics of any kind, whether you're in finance or you're in service delivery, whatever the case may be. Insight AI is right there, kind of in terms of strategic value, is like right there at the top. Now that we're all running really efficiently, can we get data that tells us that we're doing a good job, that we'll continue to do a good job or be successful, and potentially like where there are potential problems we need to be looking for before they happen. So, this is for those of you who know the movie like Minority Report, right? You have these people, but entities who are using their minds to predict crime. Like that's what Insight AI is. You're thinking about is we have the right information and now we can predict what we think, with a high probability, what's going to happen unless we change something. So now let's deep breath. Now we're going to talk about strategic frameworks. So the concept of frameworks is a really important one in our organization. And when I'm out doing consulting or advising or doing other presentations to managers, leaders, what have you, I talk about how valuable the use of frameworks are within the organization. And this isn't frameworks within technology, right? The frameworks are, some of you might think of them, they're sometimes referred to as standards. Standards usually come out of frameworks. Like the standard, we have the framework kind of provides the structure and the guidance and the guardrails, and then we develop more specifics. We develop a standard. That standard might become a practice. It might become law in terms of compliance and so forth. So frameworks are really good because it removes a lot of guessing. I can say good frameworks have a lot of research behind them. Usually they have a lot of testing that's been done. And there are frameworks for strategy. And I've brought up four here that could be really valuable when you talk about AI strategy development, AI planning. And there's four of them because there is not one perfect model based on what vision the organization has. So that's why I've got four here. I started with 18. I got it down to 12, and then I called it further, and these four worked for me, and how when I go into different size organizations, so small organizations of 4 people up to organizations that have hundreds of employees, these frameworks still apply, and they're really well suited towards AI strategy. So as you're looking at these, if you're not familiar with them, these would be things like you would want to go learn a little bit more about and research about. If you have a strategy background, you may see some parallels to strategy work you've done previously, other frameworks, and how there's some overlap on these 4 models here. So let's get into each strategy framework, because these are going to be the important parts. Like if you're going into your organization and you're saying we should really get a plan together for AI, and I love that phrase, plan versus strategy, because plan sounds like, and it should be that we're going to do something about this. Strategy sometimes in organizations, it does for me, can be a little bit difficult to get your hands around, because strategy can be something that we aspire to over 5 to 10 years, and then we don't come up with a plan to execute it. So when I refer to AI strategy, I'm talking about something that aligns how we're going to approach our needs and how we would go into the plan in the planning process. And we're going to do this over 1 to 2 years. So really important to understand what I say when I'm talking about strategies and plans. I'm talking about a very short window. I do not subscribe to 5 and 10-year strategies. Like that might be great for enterprise organizations or something really transformational that requires that kind of future planning. That's not what we're doing right here. This is very near term. So let's dive into a couple of these frameworks. Let's talk about the AI maturity model. And I didn't invent any of these. Like these, you can go find the research that's behind them and so forth. I think this one about crawl, walk, run, fly, like that sounds really relatable. And I would say it is. The careful thing is, as you begin to walk and then run, of course, fly, the scope of what you're probably going to take on is actually going to get much, much narrower. It's going to become much focused. So you want to investigate are we an organization that is going to take on a vision of AI where this framework is a good match for our strategy and planning. If your vision is assistive AI, I don't know that this is the best match for that. because you could and deploy the assistive AI without saying we're actually going to fly, right? We're going to use it AI in a very strategic, high value way. If your vision is assistive AI, that personal AI is a personal assistant, this might not be the right model for you. If you're an organization like us, where assistive is where it was our strategy of where we began, but where we were trying to get to was that in flow AI, this one actually might work really well. We're just going to be typically you're going to narrow as you go to scale up, you're going to become more and more focused so that you can really do that one or two or three things incredibly well with a high level of success. The other one is people process technology. I've seen this one actually a lot outside of AI. So this one might feel like it works because you're familiar with it. The challenge I have with this particular framework is it can actually end up being very time consuming and costly. So you have to balance this a little bit with just being very intentional about how much resource time. It's not really even money, it's people's resource time that you're going to spend if you're going to take on this framework, on the strategy. But I like the way this is worded here in terms we think of people readiness. People readiness is what I think we've been getting asked a lot, because I do these live virtual trainings and I'm training staff on how to approach AI, like within the guardrails of the AI policy the nonprofit wants. And that's the part I really like about this people readiness part of it. And of course, if you're talking about AI and you want to scale that up in your strategy, whether it's inflow AI or insight or even automated, data quality is paramount. And we've done 3 different projects, data science projects is what they're called. And every single time we've run into the challenge of getting really good, consistent data. We have 20 years of data. That's not our issue. It's being able to see patterns if how the data is being put into the system and being tracked is constantly different. So that's going to surface in this model, that's going to surface itself up probably a lot quicker if you're trying to get to that insights level AI. A mission alignment, this goes without saying that, again, this one, a popular one for nonprofit strategists, figuring out how we drive to outcomes and impact. This model can work. I'd say if you have expertise in this model, like this is what you use to do your organizational strategy, it's familiar, you have a method inside your organizations to engage people and do this. This model of your framework for your strategy planning may be a good model for that reason. I think it can be out of alignment with AI from the vision of the AI pretty quickly, if not immediately, because your organizations might have a lot higher level of maturity using the mission alignment framework for your strategy development than you would if you took a different approach on your strategy. And again, I'm always coming back to with technology. I don't want anyone to overinvest. I spend a lot of time with a couple of my team members talking about how do we minimize the investment so that we have success, and then we'll build on that success. A framework like this, mission alignment, if you don't have that expertise, it can actually maybe send you off course too quickly, where so much emphasis becomes on the strategy that you may not get the value you're seeking in a reasonable time frame. So again, if you have prior experience, if you're executive or part of a leadership team where you've used this type of framework, where you're driving towards outcomes and impact, then I'd say, great, see if you can, with tight controls, see if you can use this framework and build further success by now incorporating the technology into your strategy and planning exercises. And this one is around lightweight governance. And I love using the word lightweight. I think governance is really important. I think anyone who's at the leadership or board level, there's probably lots of talk about governance, organizational governance. This is about data governance. Just to be clear, we're talking about how to make sure that we're keeping the use of our data and this technology limited and focused and secured, meaning we're not allowing data into the system that we don't approve to be in the system. And so this is a really common, this I would say is the most common framework that people are, whether they know or not, they're actually using. They're saying, hey, we're worried about people making a mistake because of risk of doing data. They then engage in saying, we need a policy. okay, now that we have the policy, we need controls. How do we actually make sure people don't do this, do the wrong thing? And now we need training. Okay, we've got controls. We can monitor that. We've got the policy. Now we got to tell all the people and make sure that they understand they just can't go home and, use free versions and start doing it for work and potentially be in conflict with our AI policy. So from this standpoint, this framework I like a lot because it's very relatable. If you're someone that has to deal with the issue of data governance, or data security, or just security, risk management, compliance, if you're a CFO, this one might feel like very natural. Like this is a fit. This solves a problem I have right now. It reduces our risk. All that other vision stuff and strategy stuff's great, but this is something I can take on myself and get it done. So I really like that. Like we're trying to prevent, as we put here, we're trying to prevent problems from happening that we could have avoided. You could implement something like this framework. I think it's realistic to implement something in even 30 days, like a really concerted effort with a champion involved. You could actually use this framework in lightweight governance and have it for your AI strategy. So again, some more to think about on this topic of framework. So again, just to summarize, we've got our vision, right? Like what a vision approach of where AI fits into your organization. We've got our frameworks for our strategy and planning and some tips about where that might fit in best for you. Now let's get into the strategy process. So when we think about this, the first thing I'd say is, what I've put here, the first one around education, I would say that is the most frequent request that I get, even more than the policy, which is how do I know, like, how do I make sure my people use this in the right way? Or my people are, they're concerned about using it, like they're taking the right precautions, but maybe it could help our organizations who are being too cautious. I have to be honest, like I see that more often where people are like, whoa, I don't want to do anything wrong. And I don't know if we're supposed to be using these tools. I've seen that culturally within organizations. I've seen this a lot. So education becomes really important. Some of the education is around not how the technology work, but what's an okay way to use the technology. That if I used it the right way, this could actually enhance and benefit my organization. That's really on the education alignment side. Now, as you go into your strategy and your vision, and we're going to repeat this a couple of times, is we talk about pain points, meaning, and I love going to this to the staff members, not to leaders and what their pain points are. That's fine. But you go to the staff member, you go to a department, you ask them about their business process, and you're like, I've got some simple questions. Like when you think about the work you have to do, what's the hardest part of something that not you get asked to do that's part of your core business process? What is some of the hard things that you have to do? And they go, they look at me a little puzzled. I'm like, hard? Well, I don't know, I don't know if anything's hard. And then I'll elaborate and I'll go, well, what if it takes longer than you'd like? Or maybe it takes longer for you to get done than your manager or your customer likes. And then they go, oh, or what parts are just really like you hate to do? Like they're just so time consuming and tedious, like you wish you didn't have to do them. And that's when those confidential conversations occur within a department where we begin to open up and start talking about those pain points. Those pain points are literally, they're gold nuggets to folks like me that do this type of not just strategy work, but actually the execution work, saying we're just going to focus on solving the most valuable problem at the lowest cost in the shortest period of time. I'll say it again. We're going to identify and focus on a problem that we feel that we can solve at the lowest cost in the shortest period of time at the most value to the organization. And the reason why you do that is when you get involved, whether it's with a technologist, whether your team's going to solve it internally on your own, whether you're going to get involved with software development at some level, you're going to need some customization done, which is very common in this space. When you move beyond assistive, it's very common to do custom. It doesn't necessarily have to be outrageously expensive. It just takes effort. And understanding what problem you're trying to solve for can make or break a project. That's my lesson on that. Understanding that pain point and then focusing in on a pain point can make or break any technology, but particularly on AI. So the pain point's a really valuable exercise. Assessing digital maturity, you know, I don't spend too much time on this. I'll be honest. I go to someone who understands the organization well, and I approach the vision statements, and I'll just approach it a different way than I have in this. And I'll just talk to, let's say, a CFO or a COO and say, what do you think the culture of your organization is as it relates to how valuable people see technology? And I love that in a Montessori school. Montessori schools, if you don't know, put almost very little or no emphasis on technology. In fact, in many cases, technology is like removed from the learning experience intentionally, right? It's this much more kinesthetic, much more self-guided, and it's about the individual growing in it. And again, I'm no expert on Montessori, but a little bit understanding. This digital maturity question or stage is really about you going inside your organization and finding that person who really feels they have a pulse on this or helps to define it, and then saying, so where do we exist? A lot of times maturity can get confused with mastery, like, oh, we're only at this level, we don't really understand technology. That's not what we're talking about here. I just want to be clear, like that can be a failure, a flaw in how we go about this. It's really about how you are going to use the technology, where it fits for you, and therefore how do we help prepare the organization for the use of that technology in the way that you intended. If I came back into you unprepared and saying, here's my survey and let's evaluate all stuff about how digitally prepared you are. If we're not careful about aligning it to your your vision and the culture of your organization, you might create this thing like, oh, we have all this work to do. We have to enhance your digital maturity. So just be careful on that stage of it not being misinterpreted. Trust your instincts and your experience that, well, let's do what's right for our organization at this point in time, knowing when we looked at that kind of evolution of your frameworks on the strategy that you might go from assistive AI into insight AI. You might not even do the inflow AI. You might just end up with those two, and those could be incredibly valuable to your organization. So some of you, I've added this here, this AI working group. I've got a couple organizations who do this. I have a couple organizations that don't do this. I think this is more of a question of engaging and communicating well within your organization. Some of that is done best. Organizations are used to putting work groups or committees together. That's great. I think you could also solve it just by being highly collaborative. So if your organization is not naturally highly collaborative for something like this, then a working group of people who want to champion this could be really, really valuable, especially in staff engagement. So thinking about micro pilots, this is back kind of tied to pain points. They're not intentionally above each other in this layout, but this is tied to, like, do you really know the problem you're going to solve? And can you investigate that problem or that pain point without actually trying to fix it initially? That's really important when you think of micro pilots. It's a pilot. We're not actually fixing it permanently and investing a whole lot. We're trying to test something to see if we can actually affect it in the way that we intended. So here's a practical example. We define success in our strategy. We define success with one particular metric in our strategy in this one area in our business that had to do with how we handled a support request that came in. And the first step of that process when a customer asked for technical support help was, it was taking 15 minutes. And we got it, the best we got it was 7 or 8 minutes with a lot of effort. But it was very difficult to keep that number down. Someone goes out on vacation, there's an emergency, whatever, and you'd see that number fluctuate in that range. And I wanted to drive to that one number very consistently. And that first pilot all we did was write a little bit of code and see if we could make the request come in and assign a person to the ticket and how long that would take and if we could make it work. We did not put anything production. We did not say it's ready to go live. We did what amounted to be like less than a week's worth of work to just validate that we could even execute this at our scale for the skill sets that we have. And that pilot was successful. And then we built and did another micro pilot to really make sure, because we couldn't fail on this. This couldn't be a mistake. So we just wanted to be success. So that's how granular we're talking about in these micro pilots is you just want to prove that you can move the needle on the metric, on what you're defining as your success metric, and then move it and say, Okay, we moved it a little bit, but not enough. Can we move it a little bit more? And can we do that in 1 or 2 weeks and not invest a lot? If someone came to you, even me as a consultant, and said, well, we can do this and we can follow our approach, but this is an $80,000 project, I would say you need to stop. Like, you even need to tell me to stop. It's really important to understand micropilots are almost have almost no cost, right? You almost want to try it without getting even hiring outside help to do it if you can do it. Finally, we talk about metrics and then building the implementation roadmap. Roadmaps are so important. Roadmaps are what keep you going straight, keeping you focused on that success metric of what you want to achieve. And that's the part of the roadmap is how you're getting into the plan. Like we're actually saying, here's what we're going to do in month 1, in month 2, or month 3. So again, really important part of your AI strategy process is to see that like we're doing things very, very incrementally. And a lot of folks in technology don't do this well. I'll be honest. They do not do incremental well and because they've been trained to deliver the project, which is a big effort, big initiative. So culturally, my warning to you is culturally, this may be foreign to you, meaning your organization may not operate in this way of being very incremental, build upon, improve, build upon, improve. You may have a leader, an executive, or a manager who's like, we got to get this done by January 1st. That's very project oriented. That's very much we got to get it done at all costs. That is not a great way to deliver success on AI into your organization. So I caution you on that a little bit when you tackle this is think about, when you think about your organization, think about how well you execute and do you have the ability to execute incrementally in like micro pilots and just really focus on moving the needle in one place. Promise me if you take this on, the level of excitement, excess that you feel of just saying, holy cow, we have control here. We can move the needle. We can improve this process. Now let's make it a little better. You'll get to the point where you'll know where if this is usable and we're going to put it in production. We're going to make this part of our regular business process. Um, Talking about those pain points again, one of the things is what tasks do you dread? Again, we're just going to reiterate that. What tasks do you hate to do? Just because someone hates a lot and they're very vocal, I'm a very vocal person, I'm very opinionated, doesn't mean that that's the one that you should tackle. I am notorious for overcomplicating things, right? And I've spent the last 5 years trying to get really good at removing complexity and really making things simple. So that's one thing on the pain points. Here's some things to take back you leadership level insight. So earlier I said one of the most important slides was on the vision piece, like decide what the vision for your organization is. And then we went into frameworks. I would say these are leadership level insights. These are validated, not based on research alone, but based on even my own practical experience in this area, which is uh, AI strategy and workflow strategy, really important to get that. Otherwise, your strategy becomes this high-minded type of effort and no practical application in the business operations. This is a place that you can get involved. The data quality, now this is the dirty secret of AI. Data quality is a huge problem. All of the clients we want to work with say, great, this whole AI, generative AI thing, ChatGPT is great, but we want to get into our data. We want to have better understanding and have it contextual. We don't want these, this is what the rest of the world does. Well, this is our business process, and we have data on that. Data quality is really important. So if there isn't discipline of data or we don't understand that, know as a leader that this is something that you're going to have to be aware of constantly. So we have this problem inside of our organizations, 30 years of data, but we have a data quality problem. And that's where we were able to move forward with our AI strategy by trying to avoid dealing with the data quality. Now, if we want to do prediction, we've got to solve the data quality issue. We can't do prediction correctly or well or consistently unless we have good data in our system. So that is going to come back. It's going to have to be dealt with at some point. But again, depending on your AI vision, you may not have to deal with it right now. So don't let that be the limiting factor, because some people, particularly technical people, like, we got to go into the database. We need to hire a consultant, do whatever. Please, I've done it. I've spent the money. Don't do it. It just means you're not ready to start at that place. You can still execute an AI vision. Um, I love this. AI changes work ratios, not your purpose. That's really great. You're not a nonprofit with a specific purpose and impact and say, now we're an AI that does both. No, this is your purpose. Like, this is about how is it going to change my work? That's really what a lot of this is for us, practically speaking, right? Not selling some other dream that's out there. Practically speaking, this is about how do we enhance the work. And when you enhance the work in nonprofits, you're enhancing the mission, you're driving towards outcomes and impact. And so that's the part that's so exciting is all of you that are on this learning session, like you can start to connect the dots. When you see those metrics come in and what we can do from a quality, performance, productivity standpoint, it'll make you, I swear, it'll make you really think your own metrics and what you're able to accomplish. It takes time to get there, but it is very profound when you do see it. And then trust. This is why a lot of the organizations want me to do training. They want me to go painfully, what I would call as a technologist, painfully slow. That's how I felt when I first started. Then I realized we were building trust. Now, some of the executives that were really familiar with strategy and taking on new technology, and this is like their fifth time going through it, they understood this. Like I didn't realize till I was in there talking to the people and training them on AI that I said, oh, right, right. This is where I was 3 or 4 years ago. And other people have other jobs to do. It's my job to learn these things. And then I aligned myself to them and suddenly we were in flow together, figuring this out of how it would work for the organization. So that was all about building trust. And how would this manifest itself? Some of the stuff says, and we've had this, we're going to be in AI and we need everyone to be looking at AI. So everyone's got to be doing AI. I literally have that example. Like that actually happens at the executive leadership level. No guidance, no. And it was like, we've got to be there. It's going to help us innovate. It's going to lower costs. And this was 2 years ago. This was brought up. Hey, the folks didn't understand, like, where do we go with this? That's how I got involved. Like, where do we go with this? What do we do? So the trust part is really big there, and people feeling that this is going to really enhance their ability to contribute to the organization. It's a huge opportunity for your organizations to embrace that. So key takeaways for today. It's always about thinking big, the vision, right? That's the vision piece. It's all the execution is about small, small, small. So when you get to the plan level, it is about small. And if you're a technologist and you get excited about technology the way I do, the temptation is to see the possible, or if you're a visionary, bring that in. If you're a person that likes plans to be successful and get done really well, you are in your sweet spot getting involved in this. If that's your, persona, your personality, you're in your sweet spot to say, great, yeah, you can have the big vision, but now we're going to be incremental. And we talk about this on our software development practice when we deal with AI and data intelligence, as well as all other types of software development. It's about knowing what you can do, knowing how you can make an impact in organization, and making it small enough that you can ensure success. That's really the best advice I can give you when it comes to starting small and continually to execute small. That never changes, by the way. It doesn't matter how good you get. It's always about small, small, improve, prove, and optimize. Again, it's not about which AI tool. Like if the conversations come in the organization that, oh, should we use Gemini? That's not what this is about. Like they're all incredible. I can tell you because I use all four of them and I use all four paid versions, Gemini, Anthropic, Copilot, and ChatGPT. They are all exceptional. They're all very good. It's not about the tools. You can have those tools and have no impact, no value brought to your organization. You might make someone's job a lot easier, but you might not see any impact to your organization. And then this last one is it's frameworks. It's really thinking about the frameworks to guide your decisions. So we're going to wrap up there. It's 11:54, a little bit longer than I expected. If you have some need for help about strategy, and let's say you're that person who your organization, like, hey, you know what, we are at the policy level. I need a policy. If I can be of assistance to you, all you have to do is email patrick@varsitytech.com. That's my email, patrick@varsitytech.com. Ask, say I need some help on a policy. What do you recommend? I will send you some questions. You'll fill out those questions and I will send an AI policy back to you. Happy to do it for you. It's a big deal. And I just saw the request here. Yes, we will be sending out the video of this. For some of you that usually use a chat, we provide the transcriptions. We don't have third-party AI that we allow into the sessions. I think I have a question here, so let me just look at this. What AI? Oh, that's a great question. So smart person here. Thank you for who asked that question. I actually use a product called Gamma. It is a phenomenal tool. So I was great at. I don't use it for the actual content that you see. Like I develop all of that, right? I use a myriad of AI tools to help do my research work and my source material, and then I put together what it is I'm trying to do. So that's ChatGPT, Copilot, and so forth. Uh, and then when I produce the visuals for here, I use Gamma to do it. And there's one that I'm about to test if you're interested. I think it's called Beautiful AI. I think that's what it's called. But I'd say that I've done a demo for a client showing them Gamma. They do a lot of board presentations. We took a presentation that usually takes them 2 or 3 days to put together, and I showed them how to produce a even better presentation of higher quality output in about 15 minutes. They couldn't believe it. So if you're a person that does a lot of presentations like me, I can't, like I tried to do it in Copilot 365 paid version, ChatGPT paid version, not even close. This is so worth, these types of tools are so worth it. Again, very specific. Would I give it to all my employees? Absolutely not. That would be way too costly. And I'm the only one that does this level of external presentations. So great. Thank you, Jim. Great question. Glad you asked. Always happy to give tips on that. Again, we're going to wrap up. We're going to send out the video of this and share that. If you are someone that would like some help on your policy, please, the questions I ask are my questions. And then I'm going to take your answers and I'm going to help use AI and instruct AI to create that policy for you. Use it, don't use it. But if you're finding a little apprehension of how do I take that next step, by all means, reach out to me. I'm happy to help you. With that, we've got no learning sessions scheduled for December. We might wait till January till we do our next one, but you'll expect to see some content coming out here and additional content coming out here in December. And good luck to everyone on your AI journey, and we hope to see you at our next session. Take care.